Hey, FinCon. So does this sound familiar? You're sick of working at a 9 to 5, doing whatever your boss wants, and trying to get the slides to start. Jude? Yeah? 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 Hey! All right, you're sick of working at your 9 to 5, doing whatever your boss wants. So you decide to start freelancing. And it's awesome. You've got a lot more flexibility, you enjoy it, but ultimately you figure out that you can't write about what you want because you have to serve your clients. So, you want a platform in which you can express your own story, your own truth. And you decide to start blogging. Finally, your voice is totally your own. You can write about anything you want. And after you do that for a little while, you realize you'd like to make some money. So you decide to create an email list, sign up for a few affiliate programs, maybe even launch a course. But you have no idea what you're doing. Does this sound familiar? Yes. So this is a position I found myself in a few years ago. And I decided to read mountains of advice about email marketing and product launches. Most of this advice can be boiled down to 2 steps. Discover what your audience wants, and then serve it to them. Have you heard this? So I mastered step 1. I gathered survey data, I ran heat maps, I tracked clicks and opens and shares and comments and likes and unsubscribes. I discovered what my audience wants. And then I stopped caring. I had all the market research in the world, but no motivation. At first, I couldn't figure out why I'd lost my mojo. Was I depressed? Was I self-sabotaging? It didn't make any sense. Like, I'd struggled for years to build an audience. When I started blogging, nobody read me. Not even PT. Not even Joe. Finally, here I was, after many years, with an email list that I was proud of and a platform that I loved. And yet, I had no motivation to keep going. Why? And that's when I realized I don't really want to serve my audience. Not if that means that my audience would become my new boss. You see, I was letting my audience tell me what to do. I was letting them guide what I wrote. But no audience survey is ever going to say, oh, we want you to be real. We want you to be creative. We want you to dig deep and to think big. Like, no. They say, oh, can you explain how to pick homeowners insurance? Or how do I set up an LLC? Look, you don't need me to answer that. 1,000 people have answered that 1,000 times all over the internet. My answer will not be unique. And because value comes from scarcity, my answer, therefore, will not be valuable. Value comes from what's unique within. Value comes from your ideas, your thoughts, your stories, your insights, not your willingness to write for clicks and keywords. And look, I get it. It's natural to be worried about what other people think. And it's natural to want to do things for other people. But you cannot create your best work if you're kowtowing to the crowd. You won't find artistic vision in an audience survey. I mean, think about it. Think about any great artist. Like when Michelangelo was up on the scaffolding of the Sistine Chapel, painting his life's masterpiece. Do you think that he was ever like, oh, hey guys, hey, where do you think I should put the hand of God, and what color should I use? Of course not. Because design by consensus yields average results. Value comes from creating what only you can create. As bloggers, podcasters, and YouTubers, we are judged by the size of the crowd that forms around us. But there's only one way to win at this popularity contest. Stop caring and start creating. True connection comes from work that is inspired, not work that's email 6 out of 10 in autoresponder A. Now, I'm curious to know how many of you have been through something similar. Like, raise your hand if you've ever felt so pressured by your audience expectations that you lost the sound of your own voice. Yeah? When someone in your audience asks you to write about something, do you ever feel just compelled to obey? The other day, somebody asked me to write an article about the tax implications of Airbnb a primary residence. The thing is, I really don't want to. That's just not what I have to share. It's not what I'm thinking about. It's not my message. And I have learned over time, very slowly, that just because somebody asks for something doesn't mean that I have to give it. If Elon Musk had, oh, hey. If Elon Musk had asked people what they wanted, they would have told him to invent a car with better gas mileage. But Elon never bothered asking, because he knows you can't change history from the middle of the bell curve. And ultimately, counterintuitively, you help the most people when you lead from a place of vision and inspiration. Your audience sees you as a thought leader, but if you follow their demands, you're no longer leading. You're following your followers. And now nobody knows who's in charge. Remember, this is your outlet. You're the boss, you're the visionary, you're the storyteller. Be you. The revolutionaries who came before us, the people who shook the worlds of architecture and music and food and art and technology, they all thought bigger than the crowds, and that is why their work outlives them. Ultimately, our work will be our legacy. And if your goal is to leave a legacy, not just make a buck or two, but to leave behind work that represents your time on this earth, you cannot follow the crowd. You must ignore the crowd and serve the craft. I want to repeat that. You are here to serve the craft itself, not the crowd. Pandering will not build a legacy, and ultimately, you want your grandkids to remember you for more than just writing articles on 5 ways to save on car insurance. We are leaving behind something that is more important than simply a pile of Facebook likes. Each of us are called to create and to share, regardless of your religious affiliation, whether you believe that that calling comes from God or from the universe or from the flying spaghetti monster. We are all called here to create, and that creation cannot be guided solely by market data alone. Never let conversion analytics usurp your purpose. So now, you might be wondering, all right, Paula, so does that mean you don't care about traffic or money? No, don't be silly, of course I care. Who doesn't like money? But I'm not going to pander to it, because that may produce short-term gains, but it'll be counterproductive in the long run. Everybody hopes that their book will become a bestseller, or that their podcast will pull in 6 figures, or that their blog will get 1 million visitors a month. Everybody hopes that. But the way we handle that hope is different. Some people handle it by surveying and then catering to what they think others expect of them, and the result is a generic Me Too brand that lacks stickiness and longevity. Others become bold originals who demonstrate radical authenticity. These are the ones we remember. At the end of the day, there are only 2 reasons to read any blog or listen to any podcast. Number 1, the creator has something meaningful to say. And number 2, they say it well. Be real, and your tribe will find you. When you're painting the ceiling of your own Sistine Chapel or redesigning the future of transportation, do not worry about momentary public opinion. Just create just create. Thank you.
Paula Pant, everybody. Nice job. Nice work. I want to ask you a couple questions because you talk about not following the crowd, about doing your own thing, and I read your pieces, and I really want to talk about how you put pieces together. But before that, I want to ask you, what do you think of the new Star Wars movie coming out?
I think exactly the same of it as I do of all the previous Star Wars movies. Which is to say, it's all a mystery to me.
Yeah, I told Paula, we have this little joke. Paula knows no cultural references, and I told her I wouldn't ask that question. So we had to start with that one. No, seriously, I want to get to
reference into the slides. Did you see that?
Very nice.
I can fool people into thinking I've seen that movie. I've never seen that movie or those movies.
Yeah, however many there have been.
Right? Yeah,
maybe.
I've heard there are several.
Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, they were okay. But let's talk about your process because there are two things that I love about your writing. It seems incredibly inspired, but it also seems like you have a certain process that you must follow to write it. So I want to ask you first, if you're not following the crowd, where do you get your inspiration from? Because it's clearly not Star Wars.
So throughout the day, just conversations that I have, like books that I read, conversations that I have, ideas about money, work, life, pop up throughout the day in my head, and so I document them everywhere. I've got an Evernote app on my phone where I write down ideas. I've got the Notes app. I've got a folder on Dropbox. I've got like multiple redundant folders just scattered everywhere where I just jot down any idea that comes to me.
The second you get it, you write it down.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a key because I never do that, and so I never have anything inspired. But then when you sit down to write, your pieces are always very carefully constructed. How long does it take you to write your average blog post?
Oh, anywhere between 4 to 20 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. About how many drafts do you go through? Or do you not think in terms of drafts?
Yeah, a bajillion. I mean, really what I do, and I learned how to do this a couple of years ago, is every day I sit down and I just journal for me. I do that for at least 5 minutes a day, and 99.9% of that, and that is an unofficial statistic, does not get published or like even modified into a blog post. Sometimes I'm journaling about whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to be financial, but a lot of times there's a kernel in there that then morphs into a blog post, and that is the stuff that's most authentic because that's the stuff that, you know, when I sit down at my laptop in the morning and my fingers are just moving. Like, my brain isn't actually thinking about what I'm writing. My fingers are just moving, and I'm watching the words that flow out of them.
Serving the craft.
Exactly.
Right. I don't know where I got that phrase from. Ladies and gentlemen, Paula Pant.